We live.
Live from different angles.
Yeah. Well, I had a request to talk about relationships, man,
That's
because I have a friend who has a friend, and this friend is disappointed in her friend because she feels that the friend is settling. And so she asked me, why do I think that people settle in the first place in relationships? And do you find that you even see that, though? Do you see people settling?
I see people settling.
Yeah, and so this is a very passionate subject for me because I see it all the time and it drives me crazy. And there's so many factors as to why we do settle relationships. I think one of them is loneliness, just the fear of it. One is laziness, and then also it's just a matter of this hope and this belief that the person can change eventually, that you can change them, and I guess I just wanted to discuss those factors. And like, for instance, I know a couple who, damn, I know a couple. Actually, before I go play, I want to talk about them. I know a couple who have been together for many, many years, and then at one point, they weren't even being intimate with each other anymore.
I've heard of couples doing that, but I don't understand how you could still be in a relationship without relations. But go ahead. I've heard of that.
I feel that, and the thing is that I feel like I need to go to see, and I was trying to prevent myself from going on a tangent, right? Which is one reason why I had that sort of mental hiccup, because I was trying to prevent myself from going into one of the other aspects of romance and love. But it has to be broken down. I have to go down this path. So, because one aspect of settling has to do with the person not knowing themselves. And I have to talk about it. I have to say it. It sounds like such a cliche thing and such a trite thing to discuss. But a lot of times we're settling too because we feel like we don't deserve happiness. And why don't we feel we deserve happiness? Because we are ourselves unhappy to begin with. And I just noticed that the majority of the time when I talk to people who are in relationships about that which, about the dysfunction in the relationship, I find that the person who I'm talking to doesn't even know themselves, don't even know what they truly want in their life. Their identity is, it only exists in relation to the person they're with. And I just see that with so many people, they feel that once you get in a relationship, their individuality is no more. And now they are who they are only due to who their boyfriend or girlfriend.
And let me further elaborate on that, because I can speak on that from a personal experience. I was in a very toxic relationship, and it was toxic because I didn't value myself enough. I didn't love myself enough. So I made this person my world. I made this person the sun during the daytime, the moon at nighttime, the water I drank, the air I breathe. And it is, I love an amazing, unconditional, limitless type of love. But I will say that you have to give yourself that type of love before you can commit that type of love to another person, because it will be toxic. And I made this person my world. Like I put them on such a high pedestal that they could do no wrong, that they were perfect. And so when they did make a simple mistake, it was even worse. It was 10 times worse than what it actually should have been. Why you didn't text me? Why you didn't call me? Why you said you busy? Okay, you said you got a class at 3:30. Okay, you said you get off work at 5 o'clock. Why at 5:01 I'm not getting a text message? Why at 5:01 I'm not getting a phone call? Why at 3:30 in 30 seconds, as soon as you clock out, you ain't calling me? Like,
right.
And so that wasn't a reflection of that person. That was a reflection of myself, not knowing my self-worth, not loving myself, not being confident in myself, just being an insecure person that says they know love, that says they're in love, but in actuality, you're in a toxic situation. So, elaborating on what he's saying, love yourself first before you can love anyone else. And No, you can't control how that other person treats you and love you, even after you begin to love and value yourself. But it will be a much better relationship. And if y'all ever do part ways, once you come out of that relationship, you won't feel like it was a waste or you didn't learn or gain anything from it, because you wouldn't have spent the entire relationship arguing and fighting one another about you doing this wrong or you're not doing this or you're doing too much of this.
Can I and first of all, hell yes to everything he just said. Two things. First thing, I just want to say one quote that came to my mind that I developed because due to the pedestal syndrome. I used to say, don't put me on too high of a pedestal, because the fall will be that much greater when I let you down. It's like the higher, and the one thing. But the second thing I want to say, when he talks about argument, one thing I think contributes to the normalcy of settling and the dysfunction in relationships in general is this idea that, and I had an argument with somebody about this recently, that arguing is normal. Now here's the thing, arguing in the most technical sense, that if you want to use the most technical sense, two people who have a disagreement and they have an impassioned conversation about the disagreement or conversation period of differing views, fine. But the kind of argument that people talk about as normal is the unproductive kind of arguing, the destructive criticism as opposed to the constructive criticism. And when this dude told me that, like, when I was discussing something about him as far as like my pet peeve of relationships, and he said it and he's like, that's normal. And I was like, man, I'm like, you know what? I was like, it angers me when I hear you or anyone else say that as if it's okay. Let me just say this. Normal does not equate to good. That's my thing. Yes, it's normal. I don't have any reservations about acknowledging that, but it does not equate to healthy. And that's my main concern about everything in this life. I just want to be the healthiest I can be psychologically, emotionally, and physically, because what else is there to do? And but yeah, and so that contributes to this settling phenomenon, that we have convinced ourselves in the midst of a dysfunctional relationship that dysfunction is gonna be there no matter what.
And it's another form of settling. You have the and I don't like this, I don't want to do good person, bad person, but being in a relationship, when a person isn't living up to your standards, or when a person isn't even on the same level as you. I'm not necessarily speaking on finances. I make $100 million. My girl got to make, $100 million, at least 500. I'm not even speaking in that sense. But my philosophy with relationships is, as long as things are balanced, at the end of the day, we have a balance. Everything is, overall, there's a balance. I'm fine. Okay. For instance, my girl makes $1 million. I make $500,000 annually. Right. So her job may be more taxing, harder, longer hours. My job, I go in, punch a few buttons, leave. I'm home. I beat her home. She gets home. She's broken down, tired, long day. Now, emotionally, sensually, intimately, we should be there for one another, period, regardless of what goes on throughout the day, regardless of what goes on throughout our life. But I also believe that I should do a little bit more to make that balance, because she's at work from 7 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. I'm at work from 9 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the evening. In that 2-hour gap, I should be doing something to be prepared to cater to her in some type of way. Have her favorite music playing when she walks through the door. Have her candlelit bubble bath. Have her favorite meal prepared. Aromatherapy. Something should be prepared to make that balance. Babe, I don't make as much money as you, so we're unbalanced in that. But guess what? I'm going to cater to you a little bit more than you cater to me, to make up in some type of way to balance this out. And I mean, that analogy, that scenario may not be the perfect, but that's how I computed it in my mind. That's how I processed it. Mm-hmm. Overall, it should be a balance. it's gonna be unbalanced and everything because we're two people, we're two beings, we're different, we're individuals. But as long as it's balanced across the whole entire scape of the relationship, I feel like everything will be all right. It'll work out.
Man, so first of all, that word balance is one of the most beautiful, applicable, poignant words I feel, because every aspect of this life with regards to our health, our sleep, and our relationships. It's just balance, man. It's just this balance. But you know what the problem is, man? A lot of people, again, it comes down. I hate to reduce things and say that it's only this or it's only that. But one of the main things is that people don't recognize balance because they don't even recognize the imbalanced nature of their own self. They don't even realize how imbalanced their life is on an individual level. They don't realize how their sleep is disproportionate to their activity, or their diet disproportionate to the amount of fun. They're like the fun is way higher than the want is way higher than the need, I guess is what I'm saying. Especially the balance of want versus need. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times I've noticed that, this is what I hear about a lot too when people tell me about their relationships, is that I talk to a lot of dudes about this, right? And they'll say that their woman has this want. Like I know one fellow who has because to go along with what you were saying about the balance with the relationship, I know one fellow who has a very physical job, and his girlfriend does not have a very physical job at all. It's not physical in the least. And when they get home, she is sort of she's disappointed that he doesn't have more energy to do this or to do that. Mm-hmm. And it's a very, to me, self-centered thing when we can't see this with a clear mind, and when we have that expectation of a person that's just so unfair. Yeah. And to not even recognize the balance in that, to not recognize that my day has been much more. It's not that not that one job is necessarily harder. She could be emotionally taxed, psychologically taxed, but acknowledge that there's something to do. Let's say she just wants to do some physical. Let's say that for me to be PG about it, she wants some physical things to happen later that night, and he's not and he doesn't have the energy for it. It should not be held against the man when he does not want to, if in fact he's physically exhausted. Now there's many other factors that come into play with that, and sometimes it's a little bit more complicated than just someone being tired, because then you could say, what if he's just tired all the time? Yes, there needs to be some concessions made and whatnot.
Sacrifices, compromises. Yeah.
Right, but to not even to begin to understand that, it's so self-centered to me. And that's the problem I'm seeing in a lot of relationships, is just that there's this self-centered aspect from the man or from the woman. Somebody's being self-centered. Somebody is not actively seeking the other person's happiness, because what is the easiest way to have a harmonious relationship but to actively seek the other person's happiness? If you're doing that, how could you go wrong? How could you go wrong with saying, "Babe, I know you're tired. Like, we'll figure it out later." How could you go wrong with being fair and just in your observation of that? Like, I don't know. But but when it comes to settling, though, it has to do with all of this, and it's and also sometimes people get that one person that they want physically that they don't think they can ever get again. Yeah. And that's another thing. Yeah. And that's another pet peeve of mine. That role. I feel like one thing I had to realize, and it was hard for me to realize growing up, is that how superficial romance is. And we don't want to acknowledge that part. We consider romance to be the romantic love. And when I say romantic love, I mean the typical kind of love between a man and a woman. Not only between a man and a woman, but I'm talking about them just for the sake of simplicity. But we consider that to be one of the purest forms of love, and we hold it in a very high regard. But I say, actually, that it's potentially the purest form or the greatest form, but initially it's not. Why do I say that? I say that because the foundation of romance is physical attraction initially. In more often cases than not. Some people can try to talk their way out of the fact that the physical didn't play an important role, but it plays a huge role. And everybody is superficial, and I can prove it to you if you want to argue about it. Even if two quote unquote ugly people get together, I promise you that even they have standards. That if that one ugly person was just a little bit uglier than the other uglier person, then they wouldn't want to be with that person. So there's always a threshold of ugliness, or that somebody is willing to put up with, even amongst people who are quote unquote ugly. By the way, I don't believe in ugly, but it's subjective. Yeah, but I'm just saying. And so I know a girl in particular who would hold on to guys, and I know she's gonna probably do it in the future because she holds physical appearance and it's just like he's got to be 6. You know how many? I'm sorry, I'm gonna try to chill. Like I used to say black women a lot, but I ain't say that. But in my experience, again, coming from all black area, it's the only experience with black women and their comments. You know how many black women have told me that I'm short and that they don't want to get with me, well, they didn't say it.
It's not just black women.
Yeah,
women have those standards. You coming from, but women do have those standards.
They do, but I know, and I believe that. You know, I believe that. I'm speaking just from a kind of personal experience, I suppose, because it's a first person experience commentary. Yeah, okay. Since I haven't been out looking for non-black women like that. I got you. And so, but it's like I want to. But you know what it is? You know why? You know why I do say black women? Because where I'm from in New Orleans, and a lot of dudes can attest to this. There was a lot of attraction to like the 6-foot NBA football player kind of guy,
stocky, athletic.
Yeah. And if you weren't that, then you weren't on their radar.
6-pack.
Right. And they got to be
nice hair.
Yeah, man. And so like if you don't have those qualities to begin with, then they're not even gonna give you a shot. And then there's one girl who has that standard. She constantly talks to me about how the fact, like, why can't I find a guy? Like, you know, like, why it's so hard. And I kind of stopped talking to her because I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, this is absurd that you're delusional because you want the best of the best in terms of physical appearance. Now on top of that, you want him to be the best of the best in terms of personality and intellectual. Like, you want a guy from a damn movie. And although I'm sure the guy exists, I'm sure Brad Pitt with the heart of gold exists. But they're far and few in between due to the fact that just like how beautiful women are groomed in our society to sort of they're not challenged at all, and they seem quote unquote airheaded and whatnot because they haven't been challenged, and they're sort of handed given a silver spoon all throughout life due to their beauty. Super duper model looking men are also catered to all throughout life, and they're sort of a lot of times just airheaded in their own little male way, and it's probably unlikely that you're gonna find a dude that's that awesome that has a lot of depth to them and all that. But anyway, all right, but that's another aspect to this.
One aspect of settling when it comes to relationships, I feel like, and it's one of the unhealthiest aspects of it, is walking into a relationship knowing, and you know, say you do love yourself, you value yourself, you know who you are, you know who you're going to be, and you walk into that relationship based on a person's potential, and you try to change them. A person can't change a person. I can't change him, he can't change me. I can bounce ideas, I can give you my opinion, I can give you my perspective, but in the end, you're going to change yourself. I can't make you change. So people a lot of times walk into a relationship and say, oh, I think she's going to make a lot of money. That's the type of woman I'm looking for, so that's why I'm going to be with her. Oh, I think he's going to give me everything I look for as far as intimacy in a man, or you know, he's going to be this, he's going to be that, she's going to be this, she's going to be that. A lot of times, the greatest mistake of any relationship is in the beginning, because you don't take a person at face value. You don't see them, look at them, they look at you, understand this is what I am today, this is what I want to be tomorrow, but right now, this is what I am. This is what I'm dealing with. and this is what you are dealing with, this is who you are, and say, we hope to grow individually and hope to grow together, but I'm not going to mold you like you Play-Doh into what my dream person is, and you're not going to mold me. And a lot of times, the biggest mistake in a relationship is in the beginning, because you see so much potential. And when that person doesn't grow into that potential, you're disappointed, and you get upset at them because you created and built them into this thing that they weren't and probably will never be. So
That's true.
my point is, just know, like, go into the relationship knowing and discuss those things. Communicate what you want. There are rare cases where a person could trick you and swindle you and tell you, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm about to dive into this, I'm about to get into this. There are rare instances, and they really fool you. But if you don't even see that they have the mettle, they have the intelligence, they have the work ethic to do any of these things, any of these dreams and these goals, accept them for them, or just turn the other way and don't look back.
Man, first of all, that was super on point, super true. But and you know, a lot of women I've talked about how, like, how can they figure a guy out, or like they've been in a relationship for a little bit and they felt like they were deceived by the guy, right? Mm-hmm. Or even in the beginning, just the dating phase, they feel like they can't detect whether or not the things he says is bullshit or not. And I would just like to say that I feel like I'm in a relationship, but I feel like if I ever, let's say I were to be out there again, I don't think I can be bullshitted or deceived. And I'm not saying that because I think I'm so great, but it's because I don't bullshit myself. And I will say the girls that I've talked to about this, I feel like people in general, that shouldn't be a concern if you didn't bullshit yourself. And what do I mean by it? What I mean is that oftentimes the human beings in general, we just have this element of self-deception. Like, we tend to not want to acknowledge certain things about us that are vices or shortcomings. I see it in grown folks. I got people in my family that's stubborn as hell, and if you can argue them to the teeth about something that they do that affects others on an emotional level very negatively, and they'll just refuse to see it. And so what I'm saying is, if you can't even see that within yourself, how can you begin to see that from a dude? Of course you can't detect the guy's bullshit, because sincerity, I feel like, personally speaking, sincerity recognizes sincerity. I feel like when I met Joseph, I felt like he was a sincere dude, and I feel like I recognize that easily because I'm a sincere person. I actively seek to be sincere. And so if you, man or woman, are worried about that, I feel like the way to solve that, and to solve it so easily, and this is not necessarily doing anything with settling, but this is just relationships in general and life in general. But just be somebody who actively seeks to be true to their authentic self and to be honest with themselves. And I think that everything falls into place from there in terms of when you recognize a guy, when it comes to recognizing or not a guy's potential BS. And but yeah, because I hear that a lot. They're like, how do I know if he said this? Like, how can I? I'm like, you if you face to face with him, I feel like it should be easy. Like, it should be really easy to tell whether it's just nothing but charm, or if it's just a combination of sincerity and charm. It's like, it should be easy to tell. It's not.
But if you're talking from the woman's perspective, the woman's side of it, women were built and created from emotions. So oftentimes what I realize in counseling and giving advice to different female friends and acquaintances, the emotion is like a blanket. It's like the wool over the eyes. It gives chance. That love, that emotion gives chance after chance after chance after chance after undeserved chance. And so then it creates this this bitterness that just starts to grow internally within that woman, and it's not her fault that it grew, but it's also after a while it doesn't become that man's fault either, because you knew this 3 chances ago that it wasn't gonna change, and the same situation was going to continue to occur. So I don't justify how people, man or woman, continue to stay in relationships that aren't healthy for them in life, or mentally, physically, sexually, etc. But I do understand that emotions, sometimes it's hard to override emotions. Sometimes it's hard to choose your mind over your heart. And so that leads to the bitterness and the conflict, and I'm never dating again, I'm never getting married again, I'm never going to be with anyone again. Love, I don't love means nothing to me. And that's how we arrived at the point where we are in I feel like in my generation with my peers. I remember it was a time, and even Lil Wayne used to rap it all the time. Love, like, and it wasn't just Lil, it was multiple rappers and artists, and I feel like my generation was the love generation, and people weren't in relationships to be with people; they were in relationships to have relations, and they weren't even in relations. It was the new term, the coin term, situationships. It was just, okay, yeah, I like you, you like me. Let's have sex. Let's cuddle. Let's spend time together. But we're never gonna put a title on this thing. We're never gonna admit to the world that, I care about you, you care about me. And so, in that, now I see people my age now, because I've grown up with them. Now they're looking and searching for love, but it's like so many things were done within that 5 to 6 year frame. It's like, can they recover from that? Or is there anybody eligible still out there for them to be with? And so, emotion plays a lot of it, and you have to be able to, and it still goes back to the self-love and knowing yourself, because you have to be able to have your emotions in check, especially dealing with you. Sometimes you feel like as a person, you may feel like you're going crazy on yourself, that you criticize yourself, that you have a lot going on with you. Now take that and multiply that by 2, because you're dealing with the entire an entire being, another being. Like, you have enough problems with yourself, and now you're dealing with another person. And I feel like that at times is overlooked. You don't realize that this is another person that has another mind, another heart, that may have been raised differently from you, that feels differently from you, that is just different. It's a different creation, a whole nother creature, and it's overlooked at times. And I feel like that creates the conflict and the settling in relationships too.
No, definitely, man. It does. And I used to be highly emotional. Up until the age of like 25, 26, when I felt like I was just desperately in love with one particular girl. And the reason why is because basically she was just stone cold beautiful to me. And but I interpreted that as I was in love with her, which was a joke, because I absolutely was not. Now that I know what love really feels like, even then I kind of knew, and I used to drink over it and everything. But I had to. The reason why I'm gonna hold women to a particular standard is because, it's not recognized. It's understood that women sort of can be emotional, right? Quote unquote. Like you're more. Women are more susceptible to being emotional. Men are just kind of brutes, and we don't really feel nothing. You yelling at me right there, and I'm just like, okay, like no. But that's not how a lot of dudes actually are. And so but I had to learn, and that's why I say let your emotions be a tool, and don't be a tool for your emotions, because it's so important. I gotta realize how destructive it was for me to let emotions rule every single aspect of my life, man. It was just like, it was completely, when it leads to just utter irrationality, it's like you have to make efforts to do something about it, I feel. And I just think the reason why, and when I say hold women to a standard, I feel like since it's so accepted for women to be like that, just as accepted for dudes to just sleep around and be that double standard of like, if a guy goes out, screws like 20 women, he's the man. Yeah. Girl does it, she's a slut. There's a double standard where a woman has the freedom to be emotional, and a man let him be emotional. He's a little pussy, he a little bitch. And so, man, that's not what I'm saying. Is I'm about to go ahead and challenge women and say like, yo, check it. And some people misinterpret this as, I had a discussion with somebody before, and they're like, oh, but like, you just want to do away with emotion. Like, no, my goal is not to be emotionless. It's just to, again, there's that balance though. There's got to be a balance. There's got to be a point where, and it's through healthy psychological activities. It's through detoxing from visual and auditory stimulations where you can find that centered self and whatnot, to where emotions, you can sort of, the way I describe it, and this is very conceptual and I apologize, but now the way I describe emotions, the way I feel them, is if I was at a bus stop, and the emotion of anger, the anger bus comes in front of me, I have the option to either get on that anger bus or get off of it. And so while the anger bus is in front of me, I'm still feeling anger, but as it goes, I step back, anger bus chose to keep going. It keep going. I see it go down the street, and it turns the corner. I don't see it anymore. That's how it is for me. Sometimes if I choose to, within myself, I know it sounds probably like, what the hell am I talking about? That's the best way I describe it. I have like this, I feel like eventually through self-examination and through just the active practice of self-awareness, one sort of develops the option to let anger run through them for the next hour, or to just non-judgmentally observe the fact that anger is flowing through you and just let it flow, and it like within a minute or two, it just usually disperses. And that's when but putting that to the side, that's a little bit too much. That being said, I think we should all on an individual level just want to be better and grow, and not, there's so many different things, man. And if I say not relying on significant others to be the main source of our happiness, that too, and that's the thing too.
That's what it all ties to. That's what it all goes to.
Yeah.
Be happy with yourself. Love yourself. I mean, basically, that's the definition of it. Be happy with yourself. Love yourself. Define yourself. Value yourself. Treat yourself. Cater to yourself. And then when you do that for yourself, you will be able to do that for your loved ones. You'll be able to give that to your loved ones. And you will be able to know if you will receive that very thing from that same individual. Because if they don't do those things for themselves, if it's always, hey, well, I don't care. What do you want to do? Oh, I don't, well, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to eat, whatever you want to watch, wherever you want to go. It's either they don't care or they care too much. If they have no self-identity, if this dude is an asshole, you know he's an asshole, you love yourself, you love him for an asshole, be with that asshole. But if you know that you don't want to be with an asshole, and based off looks or based off the pockets, you be with this asshole, don't complain about being with that asshole, because that's what you chose to do. Bottom line is, when you walk into that relationship, know what you're looking for, converse, communicate. This is what I want. This is what I'm going after. This is what I want to grow. And know that you're not going to get everything that you want, but also be happy enough with yourself that if that relationship does not work out, you won't be devastated and completely dead to the world that it didn't work out, because you invested so much into this person that you didn't have enough to deposit into your bank. And that's basically how I feel about relationships.
But there's so much. I ain't gonna say no more of y'all time. Because there's so many other things that I would love to say. There's just too much. There's too much. Too much. But yes, to sum it up, yeah, those are our feelings on relationships. Just the gist.
The gist of it, and
yeah.
I'm pretty sure there'll be plenty more conversations. This was just trying to step away from, the usual subject matter, and to humanize ourselves, to talk about topics that people may relate to better, or actually care to hear about, because I know it gets pretty deep and pretty heavy and pretty tense. And this could go there too, and I'm pretty sure, again, like I said, this won't just be like a part one or just a one-time thing. This is probably part one in a series on love and life and relationships and happiness and romance. So, I hope, even if it was 30 minutes of nothing for you, that at least 10 seconds of a sentence or of the commentary was helpful to you or was insightful at all.
Yeah, I hope so too. Forgive me in the beginning for having that mental hiccup, but it truly was from me. I was attempting to stay on a particular path, but I don't, and I apologize if sometimes there's too many threads. But the way that I think, and the way I think sometimes things should be spoken upon, sometimes there needs to be multiple threads. And so I hope you followed them.
And we'll see y'all next week.
All right, y'all.